Question number 2. What are good workouts to test your strength and weaknesses in CrossFit? So I guess what this person is asking is if you could design a bunch of tests which would inform the athlete or the coach whether this person is good or bad or has strength and weaknesses in the sport, what would those tests be? I think I'll start by just saying the first thing we need to define is what level of CrossFit are we referring to?
Yeah.
So let's say for the individual who wants to take part in a scaled competition on the weekend where they have to do 3 workouts, maybe even like in a team format, in which case we know that the things that will be tested most likely in that format are going to be probably lower skill, lower strength, lower complexity, and you probably need to be just good at the basics. On the other end of the spectrum there, you may look at someone who is striving to get to the CrossFit Games, in which case you need to be good at absolutely everything, every discipline, every skill set, even the things that you don't think you're going to have to be good at, you need to be good at. In which case the definitions of what the tests need to look like to dictate whether someone is capable at that level will be very different to the person who wants to do 3 events at a scale competition. I think that's the first thing. Anything to add on that?
No, I think you're exactly right. It's like, what are the prerequisites for the level that you're looking to be competing at? And then how would you define being competitive? Is it like just showing up and being able to complete the workouts? Or is it like, I want to be in the top X percentage of those people? It's a very difficult question to answer, I think.
I mean, if we take the CrossFit season as an example, we've essentially got, for most people, we've got 3 stages. We've got the CrossFit Open, 4 stages, the quarterfinals, the semi-finals, and then we've got the CrossFit Games.
Yeah.
If someone needs to be good for the CrossFit Open, then we know that someone needs to be good over 3 workouts. Based on this year's tests, they're not going to test the 1 rep max. You need to be good at a light to moderate barbell, and the skills tested are going to be low to moderate complexity. Whereas the quarterfinals, you've got much more complexity. But there's going to be things like swimming and running, which aren't going to be tested. Oh, actually, there were shuttle runs this year. But like long endurance swimming, running, not going to be tested. Ski ergs, echo bikes, not going to be tested. Lots of things we know probably won't be tested. Then you get to semi-final level. Well, now it's kind of an open game. With that said, we're probably still not going to see swimming and outdoor long distance running tested at the semi-finals. Get to the CrossFit Games. Well, that's where you need to be good at everything. Yeah.
I agree with that. So then how would you answer this person's question of like...
So I think that's the first thing we need to decide. You know, how are we defining CrossFit for this person? If they are saying that they want to be competitive at some level, we need to define that first.
Well, maybe take it to a basic level if that's the way that they're asking. Maybe how do I be competitive in the open?
Okay, great. So let's say someone needs to be competitive in the open. So if we're going to design a set of tests to dictate whether someone is going to be effective in the open and for them to be able to identify strengths and weaknesses, well, the simplest way you could do that to start is you simply just retest across the open workouts. This year's format, we've had 2 years of this. So we've actually, the first year we had 4 tests. The second year we had 3 tests. So we've got 7 tests to choose from there. And the beautiful thing about testing open workouts is you've got so much data on those workouts. You've got a whole worldwide leaderboard of people of your ability levels, but also probably way ahead and way beyond, way below, that allows you to create a fairly accurate representation of where you sit within a field of people who are partaking in your sport. So that's a really, really good way to start. But I think if we were to go down that route and we asked this individual, we're going to test all 7 CrossFit Open workouts and we're going to see where you sit within the leaderboard on each of these workouts. That's going to give us a lot of really valuable data, but with regards to knowing exactly what their weaknesses are, when we look at a CrossFit Open workout, we rarely see single modality tests. So the tests, what we mean by that, often have a combination of different movements in AMRAPs and rounds for times, couplets, triplets, 4 movements, which means that there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of fatigue inputs into the workout. What I mean by that, there's a lot of potential things that could be slowing an athlete down and thus not giving them a higher score. But when we're just doing those integrated tests, combination of those movements, it's really hard to pick out what is the actual thing that this individual needs to work on if they wanted to do better. Sometimes it's just maybe their basic cardiorespiratory endurance isn't good enough. They're not able to recover to be able to do movements, even if they had the skills. Sometimes it's their skill set that's not good enough. Sometimes it's their strength that's not high enough. Sometimes, which we know and we talk about a lot, their ability to pace and strategize a workout is actually the thing that holds them back more than anything else.
So many people
they just go out way too fast and way too hard, and therefore they end up not being able to achieve a score that their physical capacity would actually allow them to if they had a better strategy. So I think what we'd have to really do is maybe that could be a good starting point. Give the open tests, see where they sit within the world. That gives us at least some data points. And then essentially we would have to move away from the integrated model.
Right, to isolated
and break
stuff.
that down into an isolated setting. So let's take the last workout from the CrossFit Open this year, which was double unders, thrusters, and then they had gymnastics. And they had
pull-ups, chest
to bars, and bar muscle ups.
Yeah.
So obviously if someone did that workout, it's really hard to know unless you were obviously actually watching them and seeing where they were breaking down what their limiter was. Here's an example when I saw this a lot of times. Someone who's doing that workout, who can lift the heaviest barbell in the workout because it's an ascending weight, they can do pull-ups, chest to bars, and bar muscle ups, and they can do double unders.
Yeah.
But they paced the workout so badly because they went out so hot that they got to bar muscle ups and they couldn't do a bar muscle up. Or they got to the last barbell where they were so fatigued that they couldn't lift it. So for someone looking at that from the outside might be like, well, clearly bar muscle ups are the weakness in this workout, or they just need to get stronger so they can hit that barbell.
Yeah.
In actual fact, if you'd isolated and broke down all those skills, they would have been able to express all those things to a pretty decent level.
I actually find that that's actually how a lot of people determine their weaknesses. They're like, I was in the middle of a workout and I couldn't do this. But I'm like, I've seen you in an isolated setting being able to do this multiple times. Like, your pacing is just terrible right now. Totally get it.
Yeah, and so many times it's like, I'm not strong enough because I couldn't lift that last barbell.
Yeah.
And I know I should have. Well, if you'd have been fresher when you got to that barbell, do you think you could have maybe hit some reps? Maybe. Or, I just need to do more gymnastics because my bar muscle ups broke down. Well, if you just slowed down, I mean, yes, maybe our gymnastics do need to be better, but I can assure you 9 times out of 10, we could have got a better score just by strategizing better.
So would you then say that this person, if they were to test or understand how they would go in CrossFit, something they should develop almost initially is self-awareness?
I think that's such an important first starting place.
Yeah.
The challenging thing, though, is as an athlete gets better and they get more competent within the sport, obviously their ability level is changing so rapidly and so fast.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a newbie and a beginner progressing. But again, if you teach them the ability to have self-awareness, and I would say generally go slower than faster.
Yep.
Go lighter versus heavier would be a really good way to develop and actually create some more awareness of your capacity.
Yeah.
Would be a good thing. But I think if we broke it down and just basically listed some of the components of fitness.
Okay, so break it down into each
that
one,
are actually
like
important.
endurance.
Yeah, to be good at CrossFit. What do we need? We need to be enduring.
Yep.
So that means endurance. We need to be like enduring over short but also long pieces.
Yeah.
And as to how long we're talking really depends on the level of competition. CrossFit Games, you need to be able to go for 3 to 4 hours consistently. CrossFit Open, you probably don't need to be going any longer than 25 minutes.
Yep, I agree with that.
We need to have good levels of absolute strength.
Yep.
So that's 1 RMs, 2 RMs, 3 RMs, 5 RMs, grinding out like slow, heavy reps. That's something that's really important. We need to be able to express heavy loads with Olympic lifts as well. So the snatch, clean and jerk, and all the variations of it. Gymnastics, we've got to have good levels of strict gymnastic strength and capacity, but also the sport-specific levels of sport-specific gymnastics capacity. Now, again, that depends on the competition. If you're in the CrossFit Games, that means you're going to need to be doing an obstacle course under high levels of fatigue or doing 200 foot of handstand walk unbroken. If you're doing the CrossFit Open, that means you need to be able to do toes to bar and maybe kipping pull-ups. Yep. Maybe some wall walks.
Yeah.
So again, going back to definitions of your competition, what you need to be good at. And then, of course, we've got sport-specific skills. These are things that are quite nuanced and specific to CrossFit. Wall balls, burpees, double unders. What else? box jumps
Yeah.
variations, throwing a dumbbell around. And then, within all of those things we've just mentioned, like you've got to be able to do those things at heavy loads. You've got to be able to do those things at light loads. You've got to be able to do it under low intensity, high intensity, moderate intensity, basically everything. But again, I think a really good starting place for this question is like define the sport. What is your level of CrossFit? Look at your field of competition. What are they able to do? And then essentially pick out the lowest hanging fruit.
Yep.